Well, this is part two, and I'll be mentioning Carol Smith and Peter STRUAB more. There was negative discussion in Peter STRUAB's letters about Carol, and negative descriptions of her. You sort of felt like there was some sort of hatred or something going on, but I don't know directly because it was just the words and what I read, and I was more interested in finding out what the real story was, not just what was being written in the letters between X and Peter STRUAB, which they were communicating across the ocean, the Atlantic, in order to remove Carol as the agent. There was, in the X's letters, how he's going to wine and dine her, and he's going to capture her, and she's going to fall in love with him, and it's all a plot and a plan. It's like a gaslight story. So here's what the plot and the plan was, in which I actually called England. I found Carol Smith and we talked, and she told me the whole story. X, whose name I always want to say, but he really doesn't deserve the fame of my work, and he's not going to get it. But X, what he did was he had the same patterns with all women. He would buy you Rotary Cristal champagne. You're supposed to be impressed. You're supposed to know that it was very expensive. Well, I knew it was very expensive, but it didn't taste that good. It wasn't my favorite champagne anyway. That was number one. Number two, he would buy you caviar, so that you were wine and dined with champagne and caviar. So that was the cool thing. And then he'd buy you Joy perfume, and he'd always send you lilies. And the lilies were actually like, oh, lilies really, reflect more about death than they do about love or life. And so by doing that, he was like enjoying another sadistic trip he was on. It's the same pattern he had with woman after woman when I went back to research and find out, what's going on here with this psychopath, antisocial, liar, cheater kind of guy. And he only had the one deal. That was the one deal he had. He couldn't offer any woman anything else. He had the one deal he learned to do, created it as his gaslight, and he played it out. And Carol told me, yes, and then he wined and dined me, bought me the Cristal, he did this and that. And she told me that he represented to her that he was extremely wealthy and that he managed money well. And so he's dating her, then having sex with her, and having this romantic, incredible relationship. This is like the whole con man story, that he's playing out with her. And he says, I can help you out. You don't manage your money right. I can help you manage your money. You'll make more money. I'll do it as a favor to Mr. Favor. So in no time, Carol is now on this whirlwind romance with X, who's doing the same old line he's done with every girl, every female, because he actually hates women. So he's playing her out with the Cristal and the caviar and Joy perfume and lilies. This is the hit parade he has going, and nothing new to the resume. And we're now getting into the 70s, of his age, and that resume isn't going to change because of his character disorder and his lack of ability to be creative, and certainly a lack of ability to have any genuine concept of love or affection or caring. So Carol tells me this, whole story about the romance and then the con to get the money, and then she told me he took all of her money. Took every damn cent she had. He put them in accounts here in the U.S. and she was in the U.K. and she was desperate. So under that kind of pressure and situation, when Peter and X, said, well, we want to move. Peter's going to come back to the U.S. and he wants to have X as his agent. Put enormous amount of pressure on Carol to make that transition. She gave up Peter. Again, Peter knew about all of this. He was rolling it. I don't know to what degree, but he knew, and he wrote about her, and he wrote about her in negative ways, and he knew what Robert was doing because Robert's writing these letters telling him what he's doing. So Carol has a relationship with one top publisher in New York, head of the editorial of a huge firm. So she calls him up and she tells him, what X has done. So the next thing, X gets a call from his top publisher and tells him straight out, return all the money to Carol or you'll never get another book deal in New York. It's over for you. Carol was so lucky. I wish I had been that lucky. So she's able to get all her money back because now X, who's now, Mr. Publisher, kingdom guy, agent for people like Peter STRUAB and others, he's like flying high now, but under threat that he will never get another book deal, he gives the money back to Carol. That's Carol Smith. Carol went on to become a writer of horror herself and has published many books, and she was completely civil and spoke with me and told me the whole story. So you have to go to Carol Smith and ask her in the UK, is what I'm saying the truth? I'm only repeating what she told me. And I think that that's pretty top news, that kind of horror, which it is, really took place. And no one's written about it, but I certainly will. I will be writing about it in detail. For right now, it's just YouTube you got. Got the YouTube story about the horror writer who became famous, Peter STRUAB, working with X, who became his agent, and how how X screwed this woman out of her money, and how they moved in so that X was now the agent. Not a pretty story. Not a pretty story.